What is the NAP program? There is going to be a lot of information. Many of you may have previously received a NAP, and so you are maybe very well versed in the mechanics of the program. But for anyone that is new, I want to make sure that we have this information out. As an aside, we will also post this presentation on our website, so you can also use this as a resource as you are working through your application or if you have questions about the program. All right, so Neighborhood Assistance Program is an Indiana program established under Indiana Code and administered by us at IHCDA. It provides $2.5 million every year in Indiana state tax credits. IHCDA acts as a pass-through and selects annually those nonprofit organizations who then in turn distribute those tax credits to eligible donors as a fundraising tool to be able to support a variety of different types of eligible projects. So, NAP credits are worth 50% of the value of the donation or contribution. So, in layman's terms, this means that a $100 NAP tax credit equates to $200 in donations for the organization. So, who is eligible to apply for NAP? You must be a designated 501c3 by the IRS. You have to be registered as an active domestic nonprofit corporation within the state of Indiana and be in good standing. And if you are a previous awardee of NAP, you must have met the benchmark reporting requirements, and we'll talk a little bit about that later on in the presentation. But essentially ensuring that you met the 60% benchmark, the 100% benchmark, and if applicable, the closeout reporting deadline. So, what can NAP be used for? So there are numerous NAP program areas, and they include, but are not limited to, education, medical care, economic development, emergency assistance, and job training. Those different program areas will depend on your service category, and the code defines 5 different service categories. So the first is services provided in an economically disadvantaged area. The second is services for individuals who live within an economically disadvantaged area. The third is services for economically disadvantaged households. The fourth, services for ex-offenders, and then lastly, neighborhood assistance. All right, so we have this handy dandy chart that outlines the different service areas and the service categories. If you are thinking that is very tiny writing, you are absolutely correct. But I wanted to share this with you just so graphically you can see what is and isn't eligible depending on the service category. But we're going to go in this more through these in more detail. So the first, as we talked about previously, is the economically disadvantaged area. To qualify under this service category, all NAP eligible services must be physically provided within that disadvantaged area to qualify for funding using NAP donations. And we define this through 3 different ways. The first are opportunity zones. The second are qualified census tracts, and the last is urban enterprise zones. And all of these are linked, and they should also be linked in the application itself. If you are proposing a project within an economically disadvantaged area, there is a myriad of different eligible activities. I won't read these all verbatim, but this is the most broad use of NAP. The second is services for those who live within an economically disadvantaged area. So under this service category, NAP eligible services do not need to be physically provided in that area, but the individuals must reside in one of those designated economic disadvantaged areas. So again, defined as opportunity zones, qualified census tracts, and urban enterprise zones. The type of services that can be provided are much more narrowly defined, and there is a listing here of what the services are. So moving on, so other service categories, services for economically disadvantaged households. So we define this as households with incomes less than 200% of the federal poverty level or 80% of the area median income. So under this service model, NAP eligible services are not location based, unlike the last two. However, all individuals served must be at or below those income levels. And so this under this service category, this would include job training for those individuals as an eligible activity. And then sort of the last of the services provided to Hoosiers, services provided in any neighborhood within Indiana. So these are not location, income, or population focused, unlike the other categories. And this is really meant for technical assistance to promote higher employment. And as the last category, just to briefly discuss, is services for ex-offenders. Again, this is not location or income based, but all individuals served using NAP donations must be ex-offenders or justice-involved individuals who have completed their criminal sentences or are serving a term of probation or parole. And again, a wide listing of different services that are eligible. There is more detail on these services within our manual. In case you have any questions, then always, again, feel free to reach out to the NAP inbox, and Antonio and myself are more than happy to set up a call to discuss the applicability of projects. So we know what NAP can be used for, but how does the program actually work? All right. So NAP credits are distributed to donors in exchange for contributions to the non-for-profit. Again, NAP credits are worth 50% of the value of the donation or contribution. And then credits are reported on the donor's Indiana tax returns and applied to their state tax liability. So if you're awarded NAP credits, agencies can begin to accept contributions starting July 1st of this year. Credits for those donations can only be claimed in the calendar year that the donation was made in. So if we're looking at the 2026 to 2027 NAP credits, if the donation is made this calendar year, so July 1st through December 31st, the first half of the program year, the donor will claim the credit on their 2026 Indiana state taxes. That reporting is due to IHCDA mid-January, so we can submit that final document to the Department of Revenue. If the donation is made during the 2027 calendar year, January 1st through April 14th. The second half of the program year, the donor, that should be through March 1st, March 31st, the donor will claim the credit on their 2027 Indiana state taxes. So talking about contribution limits, a donor can make multiple donations to one or many organizations. There is a limit. A single donor may only claim up to $25,000 in total credits in each calendar year, even if they donate to multiple organizations. And then we'll go on. So eligible donors, and this is probably the question that we get, at least I get the most. It's really important that the donor themselves has a Indiana state tax credit liability or state tax liability. So eligible donors may include organizations or corporations. It may include families or couples, and it may include donor advised funds. Eligible contributions may include cash, check, credit card, stock, etc. Those that are ineligible include services, donations from non-for-profits who are not liable or do not have a state tax credit or state tax liability, or membership dues or fees. So wanted to share our program timeline. So our application actually opened on March 27th. We're having our application training and webinar today. Again, our application closes on May 1st at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We approximate that our awards will be announced on June 15th with award agreements hopefully out for signature by the end of June, with hopefully with those then agreements returned back to IHCDA early July, so you all can kick off the selling of the credits. Our 60% benchmark, which means 60% of the credits must be sold by December 31st of 2026, with that benchmark first half donor report due mid-January. 100% of the benchmark or 100% of the credits must be sold by April 1st, and 100% and that donor report is due mid-April. And then the closeout report, what did you do with your funding, is due September 30th, 2027. All right, so I'm going to quickly talk about the application process. So the application is in JOT form. We have tried to streamline it to make it as simple as possible to apply. I'm going to go through different screenshots. And again, if you have any questions as you're filling out the form, please feel free to reach out. We're happy to help assist. So the first, some very basic information, the organization legal name. And if you do have a DBA, an assumed name, please include that as well. And it should match what is registered with the Secretary of State. we will need to have a listing of your authorized signatory. So any individual that has the authority to sign contracts or financial documentation. Um, If you have any additional NAP contacts, please feel free to include them on these questions, just in case we need that you may have an executive director and then a separate program manager, making sure that the full team is contacted when there are questions or necessary documents that need to be signed. Um, And then we get into the applicant information. And so this is the section where you will identify the different service category that your project that you want to utilize your donations will fit. And so depending on the group, it should auto-populate the eligible activities. Now, certainly if you are not sure which activity your project would fall under. We will be reviewing the narrative, and so it is okay if we make a determination that the project actually fits better under something else. Really, this helps us ensure that the project itself is eligible under the code. And then secondarily, we do plan on posting not just the list of all organizations that are awarded the NAP tax credit, but also identifying the service area and the activity on our website so potential donors can identify those organizations that might be doing a project that they're interested in providing that donation to. And again, we have the same thing for group 2. And then groups 1 and 2 will also auto-populate the full name and will auto-populate information about the geography, again, and request the identification of the urban enterprise zone, the qualified census tract, or the opportunity zone with direct links. I won't go through all of these, but again, it should work. If you run into any problems, again, do let us know. And then this is really one of the most important sections of the application, which is really that description of your program or project. Our staff does read through this very thoroughly, so more detail is really important so we can ensure that the project that's being proposed does meet the code, and we can ensure that yes, we can move forward with a NAP allocation. We do also ask how and where will the services be provided? Again, do please provide a lot of that information, particularly if you are working through one of the provisions for the economically disadvantaged areas. We really want to make sure that either the location itself matches one of those identified areas, and or for those that may be lower income, ensuring that access to those services is feasible for those families. Um, we also ask, does your program provide technical assistance and support aimed at enhancing employment and vocational training? Not a requirement for all service categories, but if you are working on that, we definitely want to ensure that that the program being proposed is robust. The next part of the application discusses program participation and compliance. And so if you did participate in last year's NAP application, please do identify that your organization did. Then there's a question about benchmarks and reporting deadlines. So to answer this question, we would, if you met both benchmarks, please put yes. If you did not, please put no. For last year, for many of our organizations, if we have deemed them to be pretty close in meeting their benchmarks, we will take that under consideration since we had some staff turnover last year. And so if you did not meet your benchmarks last year, it does not necessarily mean that you are going to be ineligible for funding or for that allocation of tax credits. So we will run we'll run an analysis on all of our organizations from last program year and determine how they did and to determine if they are eligible. If you participated in the previous year, so 2024, 2025, we will want to know, did you turn in your closeout report timely? And then did you also meet those benchmarks as well? And again, we will substantiate that with our spreadsheet that we have on all of our organizations. All right, so we then have the NAP credit request. As an aside, no organization can request more than 15,000 in credits. The maximum credit request for a new organization is $5,000. Now, depending on the number of credits sold at the end of 2026, IHCD may elect to do a reallocation of credits. And so certainly always something that we want to make sure that we have the ability to um, provide additional credits for high capacity organizations. Um, uh, it is also important to note, and I think I have a later slide on this, that this is a non-competitive process. So if you have an eligible project and if you are in good standing, you will be awarded an allocation of credits. Most organizations do not receive 15,000 because we have so many contracts and organizations across the state that do request and do meet the requirements of NAP, which is really fantastic. I think last year we had just over 300 organizations that were awarded NAP, which just shows the breadth and the need for the program, which is very exciting. But because of that, we only have so many credits that we can allocate every year. You may not get that full 15, but again, we will try to ensure that we are providing the highest number of credits we can to fully utilize that $2.5 million threshold. And then sort of one of the last things within the application is the acknowledgement and certification, just certifying that, yes, you understand what you are applying for and that your project is eligible. And then just some basic information as to who submitted the application and their email address. And again, just to talk about our award process and to reiterate, NAP is non-competitive. All qualifying applicants receive an award based on the percentage of our total credits versus requested credits and available credits. I won't walk you through the math of how we come up with our award amount, but just wanted to share it with the group in case there are any questions. And so that was a 21-minute overview of NAP, which might be the fastest I've ever done that. I just, want to say that, we're very excited to kick this new season off. And for any of you that were a part of this previously, just thank you for all the work that you do. You all demonstrate again why this is such a critical program, and we're always happy to continue to support it. So I have gone through a lot of information very quickly. Again, this will be available on our website, and we also have our manual there listed as well. And I am seeing, question in the chat. So thank you, Ben. So what are some common items that cause disqualifications on the program summary section? That is a fantastic question. It usually so I'm trying to think how to word this. It might be that you are wanting to serve a low-income individual not related to an economically disadvantaged area, and wanting to do an activity that is just not allowable for that service threshold. You do need to, if you are identifying that your project is physically within that area, we do double check to make sure that yes, that is in that census tracker. Yes, that is within that opportunity zone. And then just really making sure again that the service area or the service category and the activity match what is eligible. So Ben, I hope that answers your question. If not, certainly let me know, and happy to continue that discussion. Patsy, when will the slides be available on the website? Fingers crossed today. We will work with our esteemed webmasters to try to get that online at the very latest is by tomorrow. I think we can email out. We can get a listing of everyone that was also on this webinar, and we're happy to directly send that out as well this afternoon. The next question from Amanda, how can I check if the closeout report was done? Amanda, I would email the NAP inbox with your contact information and the name of your organization. From there, we will go back to our file and we can double check to see if it was done. And if not, we can work with you on trying to get a late submission just so we have that for our file. Is there a 2026-2027 manual? Great question. Currently, there's not one uploaded or not one on our website. We are making those final changes, and I think our intent is to have that up on the website next week. It again, we're not making any substantive policy changes. This is a program where we abide strictly by the code, but we will have updated dates and contacts in that manual. The next question is, do donations through Benefit qualify for tax credits? I will be honest, I do not know what that is. So, Jessica, I will do some work offline and try to get back with you. And Antonio, if you can make a note on that, that would be very helpful. Ria, is there a new donor contribution form? No, we do not have a new form. There should still be the previous form that we have used. If in the case that you are not seeing it on our website, let me know. We've done some website updates. We'll double check to make sure everything is available for everyone, but we've not made any changes to the form itself. These are great questions. So Ben, where's the best place to identify economically disadvantaged zones? So we should have hyperlinked. Thank you, Jennifer. So we should have hyperlinked the 3 types of economically disadvantaged zones. They include again, opportunity zones, qualified census tracts, and those are defined by HUD, and enterprise zones. What we recommend that you do is that you, if you know that you're interested in a project in a particular geography, go to each of those websites and see does that geographic area fall within any of those approved census tracts or zones. It's probably the best way to double check. There is unfortunately not one map or one site I can direct you to on that, but I would just start one at a time and just double check to see if your particular again, area that you're wanting to provide that service in would qualify under any of those 3. So Philip asked a really great question. How equally are allocations given? Do new organizations receive fewer than organizations that have qualified for 5 years or more? Great question, Philip. So new organizations are only eligible for up to $5,000 in credits. Groups that have experience and again are in good standing could be eligible for up to 15,000. And so what we do, and again, I'll pull up this slide, is we know that we have a maximum total available credit of 2.5 million. We will calculate the total requested credits, and then we'll do a calculation looking at the allocation percentage, the applicant requested credits and or eligible credits, and with the award amount. Okay. Christine, could we get a sample application that is filled out? We could probably do that and get something posted on our website. We can talk offline and see if that's something that we can try to get done just to provide additional context. Happy to do that. All right. I think on the giving portal for individuals to give to nonprofits, that I will need to probably do a little bit of research on, but I appreciate the question very much. And thank you, Jennifer, again for that information. So I will happy to figure that out, and then we can also email out the NAP listserv if others are interested in knowing that answer. Other questions? I'll wait a few more minutes. Okay, thank you, Ben, for that. We will double check on opportunity zones. And we'll, Antonio, we can make a note just to make sure the link on the application is working properly as well. We have already received some applications. I don't know the number yet, but I know that they're coming in, which is really great. Jenny, how to answer if we have received a grant from NAP before? Feel free again to email our NAP inbox with your organization's name, and then we can check our system in our database and let you know that if your organization has previously received a NAP award. Oh, Jenny, yes. So that is the same. So the NAP program is the NAP Credit Award. They're synonymous. So if you've received uh, a credit award, this is the same program. Yep, not a problem. Any other questions? What was the average award last year? Ooh, that is a great question. I want to say it was 9,000. That is going to be a rough average, but I think I think that's what I saw when we were doing the reallocations. Ben's question, so the credit is not a refundable credit. So the credit is one that again you sell to Ben, great job on pulling that number. Is one that you sell to eligible donors, so it's not really refundable. It's really there for that tax liability for your eligible donor. Emily, does food assistance count as emergency assistance? I'm going to say I believe so, but I will double check just to make sure that I do not send you the wrong information. And we will email you later today. How often are organizations who do not meet their deadlines for finding people organizations wanting to give the NAP credits having their credits reallocated after December? We did not have many last year who we ended up reallocating credits for, which was really great. And kudos to all of you that previously had an award or had an award with us last year for really meeting that benchmark, exceeding that benchmark, or being really close. We probably had about, I want to say 10 to 20 organizations that we did reallocate. We had a few that had not sold any of their credits by December. And then we also asked if there were organizations that wanted to voluntarily give up credits for no penalty. Our goal is to utilize 100% of those credits so we can continue to demonstrate the need and the use of those credits. But a lot of our organizations, again, are hitting that 60% benchmark, and we did have quite a few that I think it was about 80 or 90 that hit that 100% benchmark in December. Molly, the last time my organization received NAP credits was 2023. Would we apply as a new organization for 5,000? Were we able to apply for the 15? Um, that's a great question. I don't know offhand if our policy identifies a look back period, so I will double check on that. But I believe you'd be eligible for the 15, but I will double check just to make sure that that is correct. Awesome. And I see, thank you, Emily, and thank you, Ben, for your email addresses. And like I said, I will go into that. I'm fairly certain that that is okay. And then Ben, who do we contact if we wanted to know if we received it in the past? I would strongly recommend emailing the NAP inbox. Antonio is our primary point person. He's our individual development account and neighborhood assistance program analyst. But we have multiple people who have access to the NAP inbox. And so in the case that he is out, many of us can go in and answer those questions so you're not waiting. You all are keeping me on my toes. I love this. All right. I did a quick review of the manual. So on food assistance, it is not emergency assistance is not defined, and I do not believe it's defined under the code. So I would strongly recommend in your narrative, if you're interested in doing food assistance, outlining how it meets the criteria of emergency assistance. So I hope that helps. The code in certain ways can be very narrow, and in other ways it can be pretty broad. And this appears to be an area where it's pretty broadly defined. Oh, yes, I am more than happy. If you want to read Indiana State Code, let me find it. I'm going to go all the way back. Sorry, this is going to go really quickly. All right, so Indiana Code, let me Google this. I love nothing more than looking up regulations. Haha. Okay, I'm going to drop this in our chat so you all can see it. Okay. So that is the code. It talks a little bit about eligible persons. It talks about the eligible activities, the amount of the credit, who is eligible to donate, documentation of the credit, the amount of tax credits available in any given year, and the allowable years of the credit. So all that information has been included. There's another question I wanted to look up. Okay, so our policy does not identify any look back period for new applications. So if your organization has received a NAP application in the past per our policy, you could request the maximum. Now, that being said, more than likely we won't be able to award the maximum, but I did want to put that out there that it is silent. And so based on that, you would be eligible to apply for more than the new organization threshold. You're very welcome. Any other questions today? Alrighty. Again, we will work on getting this webinar posted. on our website. We're happy to email out the NAP listserv once it is available. If you have questions, so I think some common themes through today, and I really appreciate everyone's questions. They're really, really helpful and it help us ensure that we're providing the best information. But some of the themes today are, has my organization received a NAP uh, uh, contract in the past? And so again, please email the NAP inbox. We're happy to look at it. What counts as emergency assistance? And I think again, um, because it's pretty broad in the code, really that narrative is going to be really important for you all to demonstrate that yes, it could count. Um, and then thirdly, just making sure access to resources. So again, this PowerPoint being posted, as well as potentially a sample application. So we will work on all of that. We hope that you all have a lot of time to work on this. If you get stuck, let us know. If you are concerned, if there is a concern at all about selecting the wrong activity, just make sure that your narrative is very descriptive, so our staff can read through that and then provide some technical assistance, and help make that determination for you all. And so with that, we will end this webinar. But again, thank you all so very much for joining today. We're so excited to kick this off, and we really look forward to seeing all the great things that you all are going to do to serve Hoosiers. So with that, have a really wonderful rest of your Thursday.